Boy, I sure love the lyrics on this record. I'm really tempted to read some of the lyrics off this record. I might do that just a minute because I've always been impressed by the lyrics of this record. The Reflex by Duran Duran. The Reflex is a lonely child. The fantasy playlist of June 4th, 1984. Duran Duran at their peak. Song went to number one. Their first number one American hit. I believe it's their second number one British hit. The Reflex by Duran Duran at number two. Written over a couple of bottles of wine. How about that? Doing a little, drinking a little bit of sauce on the side. Getting a little inspiration. Yeah. A lot of people thought this song had deep meaning. There's something meaningful about this record, but Simon Le Bon, the lead singer, says, I don't know what it means. But the lyrics are just brilliant in this record. Duran Duran, the Reflex. There's several layers I want to go through real quick. Let's talk about the roster of hits by Duran Duran real quick. Of course, they started hitting in England as early as 1980, 81. Girls on Film was one of their hits overseas. And when they hit it here in America, oh boy, they made the most out of it. Hungry Like the Wolf, winter of 82 and 83, followed by Rio in the spring of 1983, and then the summer of 1983. Is There Something I Should Know? A Beatles sounding record. Listen to the harmonics of that record. Sounds quite a bit. Well, a lot of people were thinking, man, these guys, they sound like the Beatles on that record. That one went to number one in Britain. And then we get into the fall of 83, Union of the Snake, and then New Moon on Monday, the winter of 83 and 84. Remember heating up those cold nights during that era, listening to the New Moon on Monday, Reflex in the summer, and then Wild Boys in the fall of 1984, Feud to a Kill in the summer of 1985. They did another one before that. I can't remember the name of it, right offhand, slow record. Well, we got Duran Duran, baby, it's the Reflex. They started working on this album in the south of France at a chateau. They had some problems coming up with song ideas, but they did arrange some songs or had some ideas for songs which they took to the Caribbean. They went to a recording studio, George Martin's Air Studios in Montserrat, which is in the Caribbean. I hope I pronounced that word correctly, Montserrat. This is big, big. George Martin. We're talking about the guy who produced the Beatles. He produced hit records by America in the early 70s. George Martin. Jimmy Buffett recorded The Volcano. Jimmy Buffett recorded it there. Dire Straits recorded at the Air Studios. I believe Rush did too. Police, Paul McCartney. Big recording studio. I remember reading a little bit about it back in the day. Gosh, I can't believe it's been over 35, 40 years ago. My goodness, but that was a big ado right there. And it took a while. It was an expensive album to make. It took them a while to make this album. They went to Australia to finish it up, and that's when John Taylor, bass player, got into an argument with the producer Alex Sadkin. Why is this album taking so long to make? Why are we spending so much time trying to perfect the sound of a cymbal? I'm just sitting around. We're just sitting around here. I feel like a caged animal. John wrote, and was there so much procrastination in the mixing of this album? Why is it taking so long to mix this album? And there has been some speculation. This was a time, now remember, this album they start on this album, Seven and the Ragged Tiger, in the spring of 83, May of 83. This is 1983 and 84 when the group, they were at the plateau. They were in the stratosphere of popularity, of fandom. And John Taylor was thinking of leaving the band. F this album's taking too long to make. And that's when some people thought that John Taylor came up with an idea of an offshoot of Duran Duran, Power Station. Remember Power Station? Some Like It Hot, and their remixed, their scintillating remix of Bang a Gong Get It On by the T-Rex song, which they did in 85. Well, the album did get done. It got done. Let's talk about the single. There's the album cut. And the album cut, if it was released as a single as just an album cut. Well, if it was released just right off the album, it probably would have been a hit. But the song lacked something. Indeed, Nick Rhodes, group member Nick Rhodes, thought, well, this is just an album track. The Reflex, just an album track, that's all. But the other group members of Duran, they were like, this song has something. So guess what they did? They sent the record, the Reflex, to Niles Rodgers of Chic, and he came up with a killer remix. This hook, this da 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 at the beginning of the song, the reflex. This is type of beginning. Now just imagine this: you're driving in a car in 1984. You're listening to this record for the first time. You don't even know if it's a Duran record. You're just listening to that da 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 da, and you're riveted. Man, what a killer beginning. I'm not going to put it on another radio station. I'm going to keep it on this radio station and listen to this record. This has got to be an interesting record with a beginning like that. Well, the Niles Rodgers remix went to #1, the summit of the American charts. God, but the lyrics, even though it might be meaningless, I've always been impressed, somewhat mesmerized. I'm on a ride and I want to get off, but they won't slow down the roundabout. I sold the radio and the TV set, don't want to be around when this gets out. Love the rhyme scheme. The Reflex is a lonely child who's waiting by the park. The Reflex is a door to finding treasure in the dark. The Reflex has many personas, and watching over Lucky Clover isn't that bizarre. Every little thing the Reflex does leaves you answered with a question mark. Talk about a classic. A controlled stream of consciousness. What I tell you. Love it. The Reflex at #2 on my fancy playlist, June 4th, 1984.